Hey guys, it's Brian here from the Hustle and Grind podcast. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. So it's just me, and I am just talking to you, which might seem awkward, but I'm just going to go through a number of things that I've experienced from my entrepreneurship journey. And I know a lot of people asked, you know, what my background or what my experience has been in terms of, getting to become an entrepreneur or a business owner. And I thought I'd just share my experience and my background. We might do this from time to time. Now, Scotty's got a really great story as well. And what I'm hoping to do is just give some information, share my journey. So that might help you if you're out there in our audience and you're just thinking about entrepreneurship and what that really entails. I'm hoping to maybe give you a look around some corners here and give you some good information based on my own experience. Now, this is my experience, not saying this is going to be your journey, but I think what I really want to illustrate here is that, it's never a straight line. My journey to entrepreneurship has been all over the map. And what I'm going to do is just give you some insights here. It's not going to be very long, maybe 30 minutes. And if you're watching this, great. But you're probably not going to sit there and want to watch me talk to the camera for 30 minutes. So if you're listening, that might be a better option. But hey, man, if you want to watch me talk through this, and I've got some notes as well. So everyone knows if you've been listening to the pod, I know I love my notes. So got some good notes here, so don't forget some key points. But anyways, if you're interested, you can stay on and listen to what my journey and entrepreneurship journey has been about. And the realness of why to do it, why not to do it. Maybe you're thinking about it, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just curious about what that is. So I started in the corporate world. I have this long background in the corporate world. The last episode, we actually had Jay Gray on, if you guys have listened to that. And him and I started our corporate careers together. We actually talked about that. Now we're actually business owners. And we haven't talked in 10 years, but it was really cool to have him on because we actually kind of reminisce about our corporate background and experience. So I started with a company called Cintas Corporation, a Fortune 500, huge, massive company in the uniform business and the mats business. You guys see the trucks everywhere. And as a kind of young, just full of energy guy, it was a really good fit because essentially what they did is they gave us a truck and you ran a business out of that truck, essentially, is what happened. And it gave me a really great foundation understanding of how to be responsible for your own, surroundings, or running a business within a corporation. But then also just being responsible and having those areas of opportunity where you can create partnerships, you can create these relationships with clients. The way that it was is that I would go in, every week to see these clients. I had a route and I started to develop this relationship, and I carried that with me right now up until now into my entrepreneurship journey because, nothing happens without relationship building. You can sell a thing or sell a service, whatever you're selling. But if you're not really focused on building those relationships with your customers or your clients, people buy things from people they like, people they trust. And it's not necessarily about the thing you're selling or the service you're selling. It's more about how you're making them feel. And I know Jay and I talked a lot about that in the last episode. But anyways, fast forward, I worked corporately for a while. Then I actually left and I started the business. I started a little design agency. So I had this graphic design background and started a design agency. It was okay. That was way back before digital marketing really hit the ground, and a lot of branding that did that sort of thing. It fell apart a little bit. My partner then and I just went in different directions. And this is one thing I want to talk about in this episode too, is partnerships, whether that be spouses, whether that be friends, family, that you think would be a really good idea to start a business with. However, there are checks and balances I think that need to happen along the way before you even get into that. We'll get in and we'll talk about that a little bit. So started my own business, and then I went back into the corporate career, worked for a company called Metro News International. It was a newspaper. I was part of a team that actually started that in London, Ontario here, and did really well. A lot of sales, a lot of newspaper sales, that sort of thing. But I quickly saw that traditional print was not going to be as powerful as it once was as digital came onto the scene. So fast forward a few years there, did pretty well. But then I thought, you know what? Now's the time to actually go out on my own. I had all this corporate experience. I had the confidence to know that, hey, I've been making a lot of people a lot of money. Why don't I just infuse those skills into something that I love, something that I can do to build my own brand, to build my own company, which is marketing, which is fast forward to now owning my own marketing company. And I just decided, yeah, let's go cold turkey, left my corporate career and started to actually become this marketing consultant. Now, a couple things about that. I started my business without really any much planning at all. I kind of went into it as a personal brand. Actually started as relatable marketing, so my last name. And I was really the brand. There were some businesses early on that gave me a really good opportunity, and they had trust in me to jump in and to consult with their marketing and do their marketing. So that was number one, is that I had a few people that really trusted in me. Number two is that I could do extremely well on my own. I knew my shit. I knew how to actually help businesses grow internally with their marketing. But here's the problem after a few years, or here's the challenge after a few years. I want you to think about this. I built a company around me and myself personally. And the challenge with that, as you think about maybe starting your own business, is that at some point, there's only so much of you to go around. And what happened with me is that I grew, but I grew outwardly to a point where I outgrew myself and I just could not service clients anymore, and I couldn't scale. The problem was that I scaled based on a brand and a company around me. Case in point, one of the things that I think that I can share with you in terms of my own experience is that if you're going to start a business. Don't just start a side gig or a personal brand where the business is so attached to you personally that if something forbid happens to you or whatever, that the business just disintegrates. So the one thing that I've learned, and I was building Momentum 360, my agency now, 10 years later, is building a brand first and then having that brand separate from you personally. I look at Momentum 360, my marketing company now, as something separate from me. Yeah, I drive a lot of the sales and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of people that I've surrounded myself with that work within the company that they can take on a lot of the responsibility and the things that I can do that I don't necessarily need to be there to do. Now, that's been 10 years. So I'm not expecting you guys to actually do that in the first year of business, because this does take years. Grind it out. In the first few years, you're going to have to do the sales. There is this thing about balance where, I have these issues with a lot of people that talk about finding balance, and whether that be with family, friends, or business. The true reality is that there really is an imbalance, and there has to be, and you have to be okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, and if you're looking to build a business or start a business because you want all this free time, I'm going to tell you straight up right now that that's just not going to happen unless you're okay with your business failing fast, which we talked about too. But the reality is that you're going to have to be okay with this imbalance. And that might be the people around you too. You might have a spouse, you might have kids, you might have family um, that rely on you. And I would definitely say ahead of time, have these conversations first with the people that are going to support you in this entrepreneurship journey, and have the understanding that there's not going to be this balance, that there's going to be a lot of long hours. There's going to be some ups and downs and some things that you may not expect to come your way. Um, Fortunately, I have a wife that is very understanding, very supportive. I couldn't do it without her, obviously, but that's not to say that there are challenges along the way. Um, there, there is an imbalance that happens, but then sometimes you have to right that balance. You have to spend more time with the family, and make up for those things. So I'm just telling you guys the reality of this. You don't just start a business and clients show up and customers show up. There is a grind. You're going to have to be the salesperson. You're going to have to be the delivery person. You're going to have to be the customer service person. You're going to have to be the one that talks to customers and clients that are pissed off. You're going to have to potentially be the one who's managing your Google My Business page. Maybe you create a website on your own because you don't have the money to spend with an agency like mine up front. But understand that you do have to really jump in feet first, and build a brand aside from you, making sure that even over the years, you can start to remove yourself from that front line, whether that be people or processes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too, that you infuse into your business that will allow your business to grow without you. Okay. So, that said, some of the other things that I've had experience with in terms of business, my wife and I actually had a retail business that we went through. That wasn't really, I mean, it might have been able to work, but I think we quickly realized that we just did not want to design our life around being retail operators and owners. So we got out of that. I built an app with actually a friend of mine, and we're no longer friends because that business didn't work out. Unfortunately, these are the realities too, right? You get into business with people you love and people you trust, but you have to understand that business is this thing that has no feelings, and it doesn't give a shit if you're friends or your family or whatever. But there have to be these lines in the sand that you draw if you are in business with, say, a spouse or a friend or a family member, where you can have these hard conversations when it comes to business, but then you can go after and, be okay with the hard things that happen that day. That's very difficult to do. And again, these are the things that I think that I would implore just exploring before you really jump into this entrepreneurial kind of crazy world. So balance is a thing, definitely. People look at entrepreneurship and look at potentially it being freedom first. The reality is that entrepreneurship is responsibility first. Corporate life, and many of you might be working in a corporate job right now, and maybe you're, who knows what you're doing. Maybe you're customer service, maybe you're frontline, maybe you're sales, whatever it is. Corporate life gives you predictability. And that's good for a lot of people to understand that if I do this, the outcome potentially will be this. And I'm done at 4:00 every day. I've got my weekends. That's predictability. Entrepreneurship gives possibility. Okay. And, in corporate, you manage a role as a founder, as a business owner, you manage uncertainty. And what I mean by that is that you build business and you create a business and you become this entrepreneur. But I can tell you that there is no finish line ever. There's always uncertainty. And what we see a lot of with business owners and businesses that fail is that people at some point it's just too much and they throw in the towel and they quit, rightly so, because maybe it's too much, but you never know if success was just around the corner. You never know If you just stuck with it for another month or another 2 months, maybe that success would have been around the corner. And that's what I mean about uncertainty. So you have to be very good with understanding that there is uncertainty all the time in owning a business. This was a huge struggle for me because I'm not good with uncertainty. I like knowing that if I do A plus B, it'll equal C. My corporate career, I always excelled in, hitting my numbers. There was a number, there was a goal. If I reached it, if I hit it, I would be successful. Then give me another goal. I'll reach that and hit that or exceed that. In business ownership, you put these KPIs, you put these measurable goals in place, but the market, clients, customers, whatever it is, it's so unpredictable. You have to be willing and able to change and as we say, quickly pivot. And honestly, early stages of entrepreneurship, it's very lonely. It's going to be you. There's going to be a lot of people that they won't understand your vision. You're going to be thinking of a lot of these ideas and these things about your business in your head, but it's going to be hard for you to vocalize or talk about this externally. And you have to be okay with this loneliness. What I would suggest and what I didn't do early is find other entrepreneurs, find others who are in it as well. And you can share these ideas because a lot of the times people around you, your spouse, your family, they're not going to understand what you're going through. But another entrepreneur, another business owner that have just started, they might understand and you guys can grow together. Even still, you guys could collab, potentially help grow each other's business. So it is lonely. It's not doom and gloom. It is, it is exciting, but these are the things, these are the realities that I'm just sharing with you that I've experienced. You'll definitely question yourself constantly. Your friends' salaries look safe. Well, you might look crazy. You might look like this crazy entrepreneur where they're just like, hey man, just get a 9 to 5, dude, get a salary, get a pension. The reality is that you just may not be built that way, and that's okay. And that's understanding who you are, how you're built. If you're able to realize that, look, I know I can do this. I know I can put this sweat equity, this grind, this time into building something, then for sure entrepreneurship is for you. Definitely. Now you hear a lot about TAM. What is that? TAM, right? And this is really misunderstood quite a bit. And this is one thing that I would suggest that you really focus on before you're starting a business. One thing that I didn't really necessarily look at ahead of time, but TAM is actually the total addressable market. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, let's, for example, say, all customers in Canada that need your service or product. You've identified this total addressable market, whether it's Canada or locally or whatever that is. And then there's this idea of like, okay, well, there might be 1 million people who need my product or service. Who realistically can I serve and sell to? And that might be different based on the type of business that you have. You might have an e-commerce brand where you sell, I don't know, running shoes. You might have a service brand where maybe you're a plumber or an electrician. It's very important to understand early who your total addressable market is and what that market is, who they're actually going to buy your services or buy your thing. So realistically look at that and think, okay, well, there might be 1 million people Canada-wide, but I'm an electrician locally and I can't service 1 million people. So what is my realistic TAM, my realistic total addressable market and my potential customers who I can bring to me to buy my services and that sort of thing. Again, it depends on your business. Are you local and are logistics something that you need to work within, or can you sell to the world, i.e. e-com, that sort of thing? A lot of people will start a local business, whether that be a service business, something that you're really good at, and start locally. And again, look at the total addressable market. Are people going to support your business? Is there a market out there who they're going to buy your thing? Is there a need for your business? Are there 2,000 people in your city doing the same thing that you're about to do? Have those types of businesses failed before? Why not? That sort of thing. So, passion without market demand, it's just an expensive hobby. And I see this all the time too. People, they say they're starting a business, but really it's just a hobby or a side gig. We talk about this a lot on the pod about being passionate, which you need, but passion doesn't necessarily translate into a business that you can actually monetize. So again, before starting anything, ask yourself, is the market big enough? Is the market growing? Is it urgent? Is there an urgent need for what you're about to sell and the business you're about to grow? And also, are people already spending money in this space with the business that you're about to start? Because if there's a market out there, then you can potentially pull some of that market into your own business. If you're doing something different than your competitors, you're doing something better, you have a better product, better service, that sort of thing. So, if there's no demand, then you have to understand and you have to realize maybe there is no business here, and it is just a passion that you might be focused on. Okay. Let's talk about being discoverable. And this is huge with me. I'm obsessed with this. I think about this all the time. I stay up at night thinking about discoverability. I drive around town. I look at businesses being like, how are they discoverable? How are they being discoverable? So what do I mean by that? Well, discoverability is the modern survival skill of any business. And, especially in 2026, if you're not discoverable, then you're invisible. And what do I mean by discoverable? Are you showing up a lot of the times I'm talking about the digital space, which again, you need to really make sure that you're playing in that space, even as a brick and mortar business. If you're an e-com business, you're going to know this already, but let's say you're a brick and mortar restaurant that just started and you just started your restaurant in downtown, whatever city that you're in. In this case, we're in London, Ontario. Let's say start a business, a restaurant in downtown London. Are you showing up on Google? Are you showing up on YouTube, on social media? Are you showing up when people search your category? This is something I know a lot about, obviously, owning a digital marketing agency, doing SEO, search engine optimization for a lot of our clients, most of our clients, that's core of our business. And the idea is, look, just Google your business, search for your business, search for your competitors. Who's ranking first? Who's coming up first in Google? Who's coming up first in these LLMs, these AI models? And how are they coming up? Now, you might need to pay someone to do SEO, but understand SEO and understand what that means first in terms of allowing you to be discoverable. But there are easy things to do that you don't need to pay money to an agency like myself. You can get on social media, start posting frequently. You can connect to a lot of other partners or a lot of groups on social media to make sure you're discoverable. You can start a YouTube channel, talk about building your business, show people, do a little mini series about how you're building your business on YouTube. Understand where you show up on Google. Don't overlook your Google business page. That's a key thing as well, definitely. But discoverability is everything. So if you're just going to start a business and expect people are going to show up, customers are going to show up, that's not really the truth. You might have this really exciting influx of supporters, for family, friends, whatever, that show up at your door for the first week. But soon enough, you're going to have to actually build that cold lead network. And that's where your discoverability is going to come in. And the other thing, discoverability, is traffic. Well, what do you mean traffic? And what I mean by that is people are actually coming to your website. People are actually showing up at your business, walking into your door. How do you get that traffic? You get that traffic through doing digital ads. You do that traffic through, doing media, doing PR stuff. Traffic is oxygen for your business. You have to look at traffic as oxygen. You're only going to survive. You're only going to going to breathe with traffic, obviously, because without traffic, without people showing up at your door, buying your stuff, it's going to be hard to sustain a business. Obviously, you need people showing up, buying your stuff, right? Um, Definitely, most founders and business owners obsess over things like logos, and these other things, but definitely focus on traffic, focus on discoverability. Um, Google SEO, Google ads. You can do Google ads on your own. You can hire an agency like myself to do it. But again, you're not going to probably have a lot of budget up front to invest in this stuff. So there's a lot of things you can do on your own when you're first starting. Okay, corporate versus entrepreneurship, and I'm kind of going full circle here back to what I started at the beginning. You might be working in a corporation right now and thinking about entrepreneurship, and what your business, or sorry, what the business you're working for right now, the corporation or whoever it is, there's comfort of structure in what you're doing right now. Potentially, like I said, maybe your job ends at 4 p.m. every day. You can leave work at home, go home, enjoy your family, have your weekends, that sort of thing. However, you do have to look at the illusion of stability and what that does look like potentially. And I would argue now there really is no such thing as a 9 to 5. I think because a lot of us are on all the time, you might find yourself doing work after hours, on weekends, that sort of thing. So what I would suggest and what I would say is look at that. Look at the hours you're spending with the corporation you might be working for right now. It may seem stable, but you may be putting a lot more work and a lot more effort into that job, into your job, than you typically think you are, right? And the idea is that if you are spending a lot more time working for someone, why not put that time into yourself and building your business? Because chances are you might be spending that same amount of time to build your own business. Again, the illusion of stability, it might seem like that, but there might be this opportunity, this option to do just as well financially or other things, build that lifestyle, design that lifestyle around how you want to do it. So the realization that you might want ownership and not just employment, that's a big reason why people leave and start their own business. Okay. Corporations teach process. Entrepreneurship teaches resilience, and you're going to need both. You're definitely going to need process. What I failed at earlier on is that I did not have a process in my early business stages. I was just run and gun, doing the work, grinding it out. But thank goodness with Momentum 360, our agency, I've got a really great partner, Mike, my co-founder, my partner. He's huge in process. I suck in process. I needed my partner to really focus on process and push me towards process to make sure that our systems and our process are working for us tenfold versus me just grinding it out. Yeah, it takes some grind, takes some upfront work that you need to really put that in. We're still grinding it out, but these processes and these systems on the back end, and I don't mean these fancy processes and systems. There's CRMs, there's all kinds of tools you can use for your business, and scheduling tools, automation tools, especially with AI now, having automation tools. You can have automation messaging agents that are always on, with people that are inquiring about your services or your products at 3 a.m. And then you can have an AI agent that actually answers, questions people and that sort of thing based on your FAQs. So, and here's the thing, corporate does reward predictability, obviously. Entrepreneurship rewards adaptability. So you have to have this idea of being adaptable to the market. The market's going to change. I can tell you right now, the market's changed about 100 times since I started this crazy entrepreneurial journey. And you have to be okay with being adaptive and adapting to the things that are going on around you. So a couple more things here. Failing fast. I talk about this a lot, and I want to clarify this. I say failing fast a lot, and I feel like there might be some misinterpretation there. Failing fast does not mean being reckless. It doesn't mean burning cash. It doesn't mean consistently pivoting. Um, so what it definitely means is that, you know, do these things small, incrementally, where you're going to test things and you're potentially going to break things, little things. Build a landing page before building a product, right? Make sure your landing page, um, I don't know, have your friends and your family, you know, go through your landing page and be like, oh, this is a shitty experience. Fail fast on the little things. Don't fail fast on the big things, right? Um, Sell before scaling, and, you know, validate demand before hiring. So a lot of the times people are going to just go in and be like, I'm going to hire 5 people. You know, I'm going to scale this thing before really getting into the grind of sales. But these little things are going to allow you to have slow failures along the way. And the goal isn't to avoid failure, it's to embrace it. So when I say failing fast, again, I'm not meaning be reckless. I'm meaning, you know, make sure that you have these small little increments along the way where you can make these little failures and then make these small tweaks. Again, having potential customers, having family, friends, a lot of these people come in as your beta test, and making sure they're allowing you to fail in a safe space. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Um, I wanted to go back to, I guess, the real balance that no one talks about. You know, and honestly, there's no real balance in the early years. There just isn't. So again, you know, sometimes business wins, sometimes family wins, sometimes, man, sometimes you're just surviving. Um, there's a lot of uncertainty, and with a lot of the uncertainty, the trick isn't about balance, it's about alignment. And what do I mean by that? It's about aligning the understanding with, again, with maybe your spouse, with your family members, with your friends, with your family. It's about aligning in these expectations and making time for the things that matter. Um, so I don't want us to have this idea that everyone's just sitting around singing kumbaya around a campfire and everything's great, hunky dory. There's not a lot of balance. It's going to be a lot of stress. It's going to be a lot of anxiety. But if you're aligning with the things that matter most in your life, you can actually right those imbalances and have these imbalances happen at different times. You know, if your family understands your mission, your vision, that's the best thing to do, because then the grind feels shared, right? It doesn't feel like you're just doing this on your own and nobody understands me. You know, if I'm sharing with my wife really what my vision is or what my mission is, which she listens to this, and by the way, I don't do a great job of sharing my feelings because a lot, or my vision, because a lot is up here caught in my brain. But the more I share with her, the more the grind feels shared, the more she's on board. And it doesn't feel like I'm this selfish guy just building this brand and building this business, right? So I would really implore that you're vocal, you're communicative, and it's not always easy, but these are really, really important checkpoints along the way for sure, in terms of balance and understanding. Um, you know, if your business constantly destroys your health or relationships, that's not hustle, that's ego, right? Drop the ego. Make sure that, you know, you are taking care of your health, you're taking care of your relationships. Um, you know, there is a thing about, yeah, we've got hustle and grind as our podcast here, but there is a point where the hustle can just be too much and you're just not aligning with these other things that are important to you in life. And one day you're going to wake up and you're just going to have this huge ego. You know, we talk about dropping the ego, checking the ego at the door. It's hard for us as business owners, right? Part of it is that you do have an ego. But the quicker you drop the ego, we talked about this on the last episode with Jay Gray, is that he's dropped the ego to make sure that he's collaborating with other businesses that support his business, support his vision. And you can only do that by asking these questions of other people, other business owners, allowing yourself to, you know, align. One last thing here. you know, how to start a business without overthinking it. Um, Scott talks about this a lot, talks about paralysis by analysis. And I think that a lot of times people will just hesitate and they'll have this idea of starting a business. I want to tell you a quick story that I heard, or more an analogy. And it's about momentum and it's about movement. And so imagine you're standing on a beach and the water out there is foggy and you're standing and paradise is out there somewhere. It's out there somewhere. You just don't know where it is. But you're standing on this beach and you're just waiting for the fog to clear. And the fog never clears. And you stand on that beach and you stand there waiting for the fog to clear and you don't even take a step forward. You know, you can stand on that beach forever and overthink things, be like, when this fog clears, I'm going to see paradise over there. I'm going to have my direct approach. I'm going to know exactly where to go. Or I'm going to have someone come over here and they're going to say, go over here and go this way and you'll find paradise. The reality and the truth is that get into a boat, get in your little shitty boat, which I had a shitty boat, and start paddling through the fog, start paddling out there. As soon as you start momentum, you start movement, it's going to be easier to move directions and find paradise through the fog. But you're never going to get there if you don't start. And nobody's going to show you the direct path. I can tell you, and through this conversation, this has not been a direct line to, it still isn't a direct line. There's a lot of movement, a lot of pivots and that sort of thing. But what a lot of people, what I find in my experience is that you overthink it. You stand on that beach and you wait and you wait and you wait for the fog to clear, for someone to show you a direct line to paradise. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to come. Get in your little shitty boat, start paddling, go through the fog, start to navigate and figure out where that end result or where that paradise is. And you're going to find it, because as you move, as you start momentum, it's easy to change directions. I heard that the other day on another podcast. I really loved it. It's kind of stuck with me. So how to start without overthinking it. Here's about 6 things that I will share with you. Number 1, identify a painful problem that might be out there. Okay. Is there a need for something that you potentially are about to do and start your business with? Number 2, validate demand. Okay. Is there that TAM that we talked about, that total addressable market? Is there demand for something that you want to do, for a business that you want to start? Are there 2,000 other people doing the same thing that you're about to enter into the space that's just totally saturated and there's just not enough customers, there's not enough market for you to actually run a business because there's already 2,000 people trying to do the same thing? So validate the demand. And by the way, you could enter into a busy space and do it a lot better. I'm not saying don't enter into a busy space, but look at that demand. Is the demand there? Is there something that you can do differently than your competition that might validate demand? Sell before perfecting. This is another thing where paralysis by analysis. Don't perfect your product or your service. Get out there and start selling. And your market, as you sell your product or your service, the market will tell you what you need to do with your service, how to enhance your service, how to enhance your product. People will buy from you. Don't worry about that. People will like you. They'll buy from you. They'll appreciate the grind. Even if your product or service is not perfect, but as you go through this relationship with clients, your product and your service is going to change. Their needs and their requirements are going to change. And that's going to help you to change your product, change your service. But you're not going to know that unless you start and you actually start going out and selling and being the frontline salesperson. Sales is another thing. If you don't like sales, I mean, take some sales courses, whatever, but you got to be able to sell. You got to be able to frontline. No one's going to sell your service or product better than you. Build an audience early. This is easy to do on social media. You can just start building your brand, start building your audience, start saying, hey, I'm about to start this business, rally around me. This is our service. This is our product. What do you think? Get those questions out there. Get that feedback from your potential customers. And as they give you their feedback, they're going to feel part of this. They're going to feel part of this journey with you. They're going to support you when you're ready to sell your product or your service. Reinvest profits. This is one thing that's hard to do, but I can tell you from my own personal experience earlier on, I was a money hog. All the money I made, I needed to hold on to. I needed to have a plan B in case my business didn't succeed, right? And I get that, and that's kind of the challenge of becoming a business owner, is this uncertainty. But what I will say is the quicker I started to reinvest some of my profits into, say, new people. We have with my business, a new client success manager. She came on board, and oh my God, what a great investment she's been in. We've invested in things like DocuSign, these small tools that you're actually able to send out and make sure that your business streamlines as these small tools, right? So you're not going to grow and you're not going to scale unless you reinvest these small profits into your business, into your people. Easier said than done, I know that. But at some point, you're going to have that reality check of like reinvesting into your business, reinvesting your profits. Lastly, and this is probably the hardest thing to gauge or to anticipate, the businesses and the business owners that survive are the ones who stay in the game longer than others. And it really is it's a game of perseverance. And it's hard to know how long to stay in the game. But the longer you're in the game, the more you're refining your business, the more you're learning about your total addressable market, the more you're learning about your customers, the more you're learning about your competition. And if you just stay the course and stay in the game longer, competitors will come and go, new businesses will come and go. But if you stay the course and if you persevere, the ones that stay in the game longer are the ones that, I'm not going to say win, because it's not a win-lose game, but you're going to have a sustainable business. You're going to have a business that you understand more. You're going to have customers that you understand more, and you're going to be able to change and move your business into ways that you never would before. So, entrepreneurship, right? It's less about one big idea. It really is. It's more about staying in the arena long enough to refine it. So you might start with a big idea, but more so it's a holistic, it's a bigger picture of staying in the game long enough to refine. We call iterate, make these iterations with your business, make these pivots and adjust your business based on what the market needs, what the market's asking for, the things that you've been successful with. Failing fast, understand if you're in the game long enough, you're going to understand, these failures and what not to do. And then before you know, these little wins will add up, and they'll add up. So that's all I got. I hope that was helpful. We might do this from time to time, but I wanted to share that just with you guys in terms of some of the things that are in my brain that I think about all the time. I'm obsessed with discoverability. I'm obsessed with traffic, and I really think you should be too. And that's really where you need to start. So if you have an idea, you want to become an entrepreneur, you want to be a business owner, I encourage it. It's been great for me, but there are things along the way, reality checks that you need to definitely make sure that you're okay with, right? Because the last thing you want to do is start this business and 3 months later, you realize, I didn't do the due diligence. I didn't do the planning and have those real conversations around a holistic idea of really what business ownership is. Okay. So keep listening, keep watching. Appreciate you guys. We're growing this pod. We're going to keep bringing a ton of great content. We have amazing guests lined up. I appreciate if you guys are still here listening to me, and hopefully this shared some value points with you that you can take away. And we'll see you next episode. Take care.